The chamber was restless, voices colliding like waves before a storm. Reporters' pens scratched, cameras blinked red, and every pair of eyes shifted to Jasmine Crockett as she stepped forward with a thin black folder clutched in her hands. The room froze, breathless, sensing that something irreversible was about to happen. Her voice cut through the air, sharp and deliberate. "This is not gossip. This is Trump's own words." Gasps rolled across the chamber. Crockett lifted the folder high, then let it fall open with a snap. Sheets of paper, stamped and time-marked, glared under the lights. A reporter muttered audibly, "Emails." Ivanka Trump, seated just behind the row of aides, stiffened. Her smile faltered, hands tightening around the edge of the desk. She whispered quickly to a staffer beside her, her eyes darting toward the cameras that had already zoomed in. The lens captured every flicker of unease, every tremor in her fingers. Crockett continued, each word striking like a gavel. "Here are communications showing direct coordination, direct intent, and direct deception, not speculation, evidence." The crowd shifted in their seats, whispers becoming louder, a rustle of disbelief sweeping the chamber. One lawmaker leaned over to another, hissing, "She's got him! She's got them all!" Ivanka's jaw clenched. She leaned forward abruptly, her voice raised, sharp, almost trembling. "This is a fabrication! A complete fabrication!" But the declaration only drew more attention to her, more cameras turning, microphones catching the quiver beneath her defiance. Crockett did not flinch. She placed a single page against the microphone stand, reading aloud one line, Trump's name attached to financial instructions. The chamber reacted instantly. A burst of noise, gasps, shouts, the scrape of chairs. Journalists lifted their phones, some already live streaming. The story, raw and unfiltered, had left the folder and entered the bloodstream of the nation. Crockett's eyes locked on Ivanka's. Her words slow and merciless. "You can deny me, but you cannot deny his own emails." The silence that followed was louder than the chaos that had preceded it. For Ivanka, humiliation wasn't just a possibility. It had already begun, and the cameras made sure the world saw it. Ivanka shot to her feet before the echoes of Crockett's last words had faded. Her heels struck against the wooden floor, each step a declaration that she would not go down quietly. She leaned toward the microphone, her tone sharp, her volume raised above the noise. "This is a sham! This is nothing but doctored garbage!" But the chamber did not quiet for her. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed in bursts like lightning, and the restless hum of disbelief swelled again. Crockett didn't flinch. She held the page steady in her hand, reading calmly over Ivanka's protests. Subject line: Funding stream secured. Sender: Donald J. Trump. Recipient: private entity based offshore. The words cut through like a blade. A ripple went through the audience, followed by a sudden hush. It was not just accusation now, it was a quotation, and it bore Trump's unmistakable name. Ivanka's face flushed crimson. She slammed her hand against the table. "Lies! All lies!" Her voice cracked as she repeated it. "Anyone can type a name onto an email. Anyone can forge a line." Crockett turned slightly toward her, voice steady, deliberate, merciless. "Anyone, but not with internal timestamps. Not with confirmed routing metadata. These emails aren't floating memes, they are archived communications retrieved under subpoena." The reporters knew the language: subpoena, metadata, archive. Phones rose higher, fingers raced across screens. One shouted, "Congresswoman Crockett, will these be handed to oversight?" Ivanka tried to shout over them. "You're being used! This is an orchestrated hit job! My family is the target because we refuse to bow—" But her words were drowned out. Cameras stayed fixed on her, but the crowd leaned toward Crockett. She lifted another sheet, letting the suspense hang for a moment. Then her voice rang again, measured and cold. "This one references coordination with multiple shell companies. The sender signs off, 'Keep Ivanka looped, she'll handle the optics.'" The chamber convulsed. Gasps, exclamations, an audible shout of "Oh my God" from the back row. Ivanka's eyes widened, fury flashing through them, but behind that fury, an unmistakable crack of fear. She pounded her fist again, this time less convincingly. "It's fiction! Pure fiction!" But the reporters were already speaking into microphones, broadcasting live. Social media feeds erupted with the words, "Ivanka looped." Within seconds, it was trending beyond the chamber walls. Crockett did not smile. She didn't need to. She simply lowered the paper, her tone final. The American people will read the truth themselves. Not filtered, not edited, not silenced. The weight of the moment pressed down. Ivanka's defense had sounded less like denial, more like desperation. And every second, the humiliation grew sharper, carried live into millions of homes. 34 seconds into the live broadcast, the chamber detonated with sound. What began as scattered murmurs swelled into a storm, shouts, clapping, jeers, and cries that ricocheted against the marble walls. Reporters leaned over the barriers, microphones outstretched, while aides tried in vain to calm the chaos. From the center of the gallery, a voice rose, raw and furious. "Fraud!" The word hit like a spark in dry grass. Gasps surged, then chants erupted from the crowd. Some shouted for justice, others for silence. The chamber split in two, one half cheering Crockett, the other hurling insults at her and defending the Trumps. Cameras seized the moment. Angled shots captured Ivanka's face as she whipped her head toward the gallery, her lips tightening, her hands trembling as she gripped the edge of the desk. The confident socialite image crumbled under the harsh lights. What the nation saw was not power, but panic. Crockett remained immovable, her posture straight, her folder still open on the podium. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The proof in her hands was louder than any chant. She looked directly into the sea of cameras and spoke with deliberate clarity. The truth is not chaos. The truth is not partisan. The truth is here, in black and white. Her words rippled outward. Phones in the audience were already broadcasting on live streams, clips cut down to seconds and launched across Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. Within minutes, hashtags blazed, "An Ivanka looped," in Trump emails, en Crockett strikes. A journalist from a major network stood abruptly, speaking into his mic. "We're interrupting our regular programming. Breaking news from the chamber." Screens across the country flickered, newscasters repeating in urgent tones, "Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has just unveiled emails allegedly linking Donald Trump and his daughter Ivanka to hidden financial networks." Ivanka tried once more to command the floor, her voice rising above the storm. "Do not believe this circus. This is a weaponization of lies." But the chants smothered her words. Some in the gallery booed, others clapped and cheered Crockett's name. The sound fed the cameras, and the cameras fed the nation. The decisive blow came not from Crockett's lips, but from the crowd itself. A roar of applause drowned out Ivanka's protests. The chamber, once her shield, had turned against her. For the first time, her polished mask slipped completely. The humiliation wasn't abstract. It was live, viral, undeniable. And the people watching knew, once the crowd turns, there is no going back. Even before the echoes of the crowd had died down, phones inside the chamber buzzed with alerts. The Trump team was already in motion, unleashing a coordinated counterattack across the airwaves. Within minutes, headlines and push notifications flooded screens. Crockett's lies exposed, unverified emails spark media circus, Ivanka target of political smear. Back in the chamber, Ivanka tried to steady herself. Her phone vibrated again and again, aides sliding hastily written notes toward her. She lifted her chin, her voice steadier now, sharpened by instruction. "What we are witnessing is the lowest form of political theater. This so-called evidence is a hit job, funded and staged by our opponents." The words carried the precision of a prepared script, but Crockett's eyes never wavered. She leaned into the mic, her voice low but lethal. "Funded? Staged? Then why does your name appear in the metadata of these files?" the chamber hissed. Reporters whispered furiously, pens scratching across notepads. A news anchor outside the building declared live. The Trump side insists the emails are forgeries, but Crockett is doubling down, promising more documents to come. Meanwhile, online, the smear machine whirred louder. Anonymous accounts pushed hashtags like #fake Crockett leaks. A primetime cable host thundered on screen, "This is the deep state attacking Ivanka Trump because she's a woman of strength, a mother, and a patriot." The narrative twisted quickly, seeking to drown the humiliation in waves of doubt. Yet, inside the chamber, the damage was already done. Cameras replayed Ivanka's first burst of panic, the crack in her voice, the flush on her cheeks. No statement could erase that, and behind the scenes, pressure mounted. Crockett's staff whispered that threats were arriving by the hour, emails, private calls, messages warning her to back off. Aides close to Ivanka reached out to allies in the media, pushing op-eds about her persecution and unshakable dignity. But one thing was clear. The smear campaign had a desperate edge. The counterattack revealed not confidence, but fear. Crockett closed her folder slowly, as if signaling she had not fired her last shot. Her gaze met Ivanka's across the chamber. The cameras caught it, the silent promise of another blow to come. And Ivanka knew, even as the headlines tried to rewrite the story, that the humiliation had already spread beyond her reach. The chamber finally emptied, but the battle had only shifted terrain. Outside, the crowd still roared with chants that collided in the night air, half condemning, half defending. Inside the marble halls, silence weighed heavier than the noise, broken only by the echo of hurried footsteps. Ivanka moved quickly through the corridors, her aides clustered tightly around her. She pressed her phone to her ear, nodding sharply, speaking in fragments. "Yes, I saw... No, she doesn't have everything. Handle it. Now." Her voice shook despite her effort to harden it. The humiliation she had endured minutes earlier was replaying on thousands of screens at that very moment. Every second, the clip spread further, a wound multiplying across the digital bloodstream. In a side room, door slammed shut. Ivanka dropped her polished mask. Her breath came shallow, her hands trembling as she adjusted her jacket. One aide whispered, "They're saying it's the most viral moment of the year already. Crockett's name is everywhere." Ivanka snapped back, fury flashing through her eyes. "Then we drown her. I don't care how. She will regret this." But even as she barked orders, her phone lit up again, an incoming call from a number she did not expect. She hesitated, exchanged a glance with her aide, then answered. The voice on the other end was calm, cold, deliberate. "Ivanka, listen carefully. This doesn't go away by screaming fake. You need leverage, you need silence, and you know what that means." Her eyes widened and she pressed the phone closer. "Who is this?" The reply came like a blade sliding across glass. "A friend, but only if you keep this off the record." Ivanka's lips tightened. She whispered, almost pleading now, "Tell me what you want." The voice didn't falter. "Pressure her. Threaten hearings of your own. Dig into her past, her finances, her allies. Force her to defend, not attack. If you can't bury the emails, bury her credibility. Do you understand?" Ivanka closed her eyes. She did understand, and it made her stomach turn. Meanwhile, across town, Jasmine Crockett sat with her closest staff in a cramped office lit by a single desk lamp. Papers spread across the table, copies of more emails, timelines, phone logs. One aide leaned forward, concern etched on his face. "They'll come after you hard now. Smear, threats, lawsuits, maybe worse. Are you ready for that?" Crockett's gaze didn't waver. "I was ready the moment I opened that folder in front of them. This isn't politics anymore. It's survival. For them and for the truth." Another aide hesitated before sliding a phone across the table. "There's something else. You've got a missed call. No ID. The voicemail is strange." Crockett played it aloud. A distorted male voice spoke. "Congresswoman, you don't know me, but I know what you've uncovered. Be careful. Not everyone in that chamber wants this exposed. Some of your own will turn." The room went silent. Crockett leaned back, folding her arms. "Then let them turn. If they come for me, I'll do it again. On live broadcast. Only this time, I'll bring everything." Her staff exchanged uneasy glances. They knew what she meant. She hadn't revealed the full arsenal yet. The folder in the chamber had been only the beginning. Back in her suite, Ivanka stared into a mirror, practicing lines that already sounded hollow. Her reflection looked unfamiliar. No longer the poised daughter of privilege, but a woman cornered, trapped, and shaking beneath the weight of exposure. Another call came through, this time from a media ally. "We'll spin it. We'll frame you as the victim, but you need to hold steady. Don't crack again like you did on camera." Ivanka closed her eyes, replaying the moment when her voice had cracked, when the crowd had turned, when Crockett's words had sliced through her defenses. She whispered to herself, almost inaudibly, "I won't break again." But the cameras had already captured her breaking, and the nation had already seen. Morning broke, but the storm of the previous night had not passed. It had only grown. Every major network replayed the same clip on loop. Jasmine Crockett raising the folder, Ivanka shouting in panic, and the chamber erupting. Analysts dissected Ivanka's every gesture, her trembling hand, the crack in her voice. Headlines screamed, "Ivanka cornered, emails rock Trump dynasty, Crockett's bombshell sends shockwaves." Inside Congress, the atmosphere was electric, charged with the weight of consequence. Crockett walked into the chamber once more, this time without hesitation, her folder clasped firmly against her chest. She knew what the next move had to be. Humiliation alone wasn't enough. Action was the only shield against erasure. As the session opened, she stood. The hall grew quiet. Her voice rang out, not in accusation this time, but in command. "I am introducing a formal request for hearings into the concealed financial channels tied to Donald Trump and his affiliates, and I am filing a bill that will outlaw hidden overseas transfers for any public official. No more shadows, no more secrets." Gasps, murmurs. Some rose to their feet in support, others shouted in outrage. The declaration wasn't just a strike against Ivanka. It was a direct blow at the entire Trump empire. Cameras zoomed in, reporters scribbled furiously, and the live feed carried every syllable across the nation. Ivanka sat stone still, her face pale, her knuckles white as she gripped the desk. For years she had mastered the art of composure, but now the cameras caught something else, defeat settling into her features, humiliation calcified into history. The crowd in the gallery erupted, applause mixed with furious jeers. On social media, hashtags exploded again. "On Crockett hearings, on truth on trial, no more secrets." The nation was not merely watching now, it was participating, amplifying, choosing sides. Behind the spectacle, alliances shifted rapidly. Lawmakers who once shielded the Trumps now whispered to aides, calculating the cost of staying loyal. Donors placed frantic calls, some demanding reassurance, others quietly retreating. A Republican strategist muttered off camera, "This isn't just a scandal, it's a battlefield, and she just fired the first shot of the war." In a private office, Ivanka's phone buzzed relentlessly, calls from her father, from family, from media allies urging her to fight back. She pressed her palms against her eyes, whispering to herself, "It's not over. We can survive this." But deep down, she knew. Survival was no longer guaranteed. Crockett, meanwhile, returned to her seat, calm but unyielding. She didn't need to shout. She had converted humiliation into a weapon, scandal into legislation, and spectacle into irreversible momentum. The chamber had felt it, the country had seen it, and history had recorded it. And, as the session adjourned, one thing was certain. Ivanka Trump was no longer untouchable. The emails had cracked the facade, the hearings would pry it open further, and the final blow, whatever form it took, was already on the horizon. The cameras caught Crockett leaving the chamber, the folder still in her hand. A reporter shouted after her, "Congresswoman, do you think this will end the Trump dynasty?" She paused, turned slightly, and answered without hesitation, "This isn't about ending anyone. This is about ending the lies." And with that, she disappeared into the swarm of cameras, leaving Ivanka behind in the wreckage of her own name.